If you ever felt like life's got you in a chokehold with stress, anxiety, or health stuff there, you're in the right place. Niraj Naik, welcome to the show. Taking us from your battle with gut issues to discovering breathwork.
Wim Hof was a big part of that journey. Somebody brings people together, creates community, and makes people celebrate life. The moment where I learned how to actually help people with their health was when I got taken to a Tony Robbins event, something which I didn't understand as a business model. You just see people getting sicker, not better. So I literally started to get people off drugs just by getting them to eat normal foods. It was a miracle.
You are saying now that Kundalini, you can awaken it by yourself. So you spoke about breathwork session. So how do you do the integration?
I really train our coaches. We have a course that really helps you integrate everything you learn into a practical system for manifesting what you really want.
If you ever felt like life's got you in a chokehold with stress, anxiety, or health stuff there that just won't quit, if you're feeling disconnected from your body's natural ability to heal itself, you're in the right place. So welcome to another episode of Lifestyle Design. And today I'm stoked to be joined by someone who's walking through the fire and came out stronger. That's Niraj Naik, the founder of SomaBreath. Not only has this guy transformed his life from battling serious gut issues, we're going to be talking about that shortly, to living a vibrant life, but his work has become one of Mindvalley's top 10 most popular quests and getting major testimonials from self-help legends like Dave Asprey and Marissa Peer. And he's here to share some game-changing insights about breathwork with us. Welcome to the show.
Absolute pleasure to be here, Morgan.
So stoked to have you. So I'm gonna try to be a little bit aligned with the questions because my mind is just racing of excitement right now because I've been trying out Soma Breathwork with the quest on Mindvalley, and I've been doing Wim Hof breathing for years. It has been like a core part of my morning routine, like taking the cold shower, doing the breathwork. But when I tried your breath work on Mindvalley, I was blown away much more than the Wim Hof method. I know Wim Hof is your guy. I know Wim Hof is your guy. I love you, Wim Hof. I hope to have you on the show in the future. But what I found was interesting is that it was easier to follow along. I didn't go away when you're having the countdown. I want to go into the details about that later, but I'm so blown away about doing it for such a short period of time and feeling the effects of it, and also that you can prescribe different types of breath work for different type of issues, because I've been only doing one or two different versions. So this is what really blew my mind, and I wanted you to be on the show. So, brother, I'd love to hear your story. So, taking us from your battle with gut issues to discovering breathwork, what was that journey like for you?
Well, yeah, Wim Hof was a big part of that journey. And I think he would be actually happy that one of his, good friends and, students has made something that you think is better than what he made. I hope so. Anyway.
Yeah,
but
I think so too.
But actually, it's complementary, right? So I'll go back in time to how it all began. So years ago, I was actually a community pharmacist, but that's where I really got to understand health and how broken the whole healthcare system is. But it wasn't really my big passion in life, right? And I actually got into that by accident, being a pharmacist. Before I was a legal drug dealer, I was a bit of an illegal drug dealer. Because in the UK, I ran some of the biggest drum and bass raves in 1999. For 3 years, I had a 2,000 people rave, monthly rave that lasted for 3 years. So in the whole drum and bass scene, we were one of the pioneers, and some of the top DJs in the world from that scene started, playing, at these events. And it was an amazing lifestyle. I was crushing. I was the godfather of drum and bass for a little while. But it's a very hedonistic lifestyle. And It was a lot of fun, but I really suffered the consequences. And in the end, I lost everything and ended up becoming a pharmacist because that's what I did as a degree, right? And I had to fall back on something. So now I thought it would be a temporary thing. Like I'll just do it and I'll hustle my way out into some other kind of business. Or back by that point, I really wanted to do something in music, making music. So rather than running raves, I was like music production. So, but nothing seemed to work out. Wasn't getting any breaks, and I kept spiraling down. And plus, my job was so monotonously boring, and it was just like something which I didn't understand as a business model because you just see people getting sicker, not better. So I was like, what is this system? It just doesn't make sense. What am I doing? I didn't feel like I was doing any value. And the moment you stop feeling like you're giving any value in whatever work you're doing, whatever 8 hours of the day you're spending, is the moment where you're going to get spiritual uh, disturbance and you're going to break down spiritually within. For some people, it's okay. They can do it. They can handle um, being a robot for 8 hours a day, and they're okay with that being their identity. But what I've realized is that for me, I can't fake my identity, right? My identity is not of a pharmacist working in a community pharmacy in the UK. My identity is like somebody brings people together, creates community, and makes people celebrate life, right? And to have the best ecstatic, blissful, epic experience of life they possibly can. That's my true identity. But back then, the vehicle for doing that wasn't the right choice. Drum and bass raves filled with drugs, alcohol, and just debauchery wasn't maybe the right choice. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Let's not kid ourselves. But it has its time, and it doesn't it's not sustainable. So in the end, in order to discover what was my true identity all along, I had to really suffer. Like I had to really crash and burn. And a big part of that was this crazy journey of being a pharmacist, and then actually where I learned the first um, moment where I learned how to actually help people with their health was when I got taken to a Tony Robbins event. Right, without choice, my friend bought a ticket. I was like, "What is this guru nonsense, man? I don't want to go to that." But I was so depressed. Um, he was like, "Look, you need to go. We all need to go. We're all depressed." He was a doctor, and he hated his job. So I was like, "Okay, let's go." So I went, and it was the third day where my everything was incredible, like from the beginning. But the third day of it was the first time I heard anyone talk about health in a, in the perspective of prevention and diet,
Yeah.
nutrition, and lifestyle change, even breathing and meditation. He covered quite a lot in this one day. So I was like, wait, I've got a pharmacy full of sick patients. I'm going to put Tony Robbins to the test. Let's test this out and see if Tony Robbins is full of shit or not. So I did my own study, right? So in the few minutes I had with a patient, came up with a very clever way of giving them exactly the right information they need to start eating more healthily based on whatever condition they were on, right? And it was the form of a healthy shopping list. Literally, this is a shopping list. Here's a video. This was the early days of YouTube, but they had loads of recipes on there. Learn how to cook, your own food. Most people, the reason why they're sick is because they're eating processed foods, ready meals, microwave meals, drinking Coca-Cola, all of this. So I literally started to get people off drugs just by getting them to eat normal foods. It was a miracle for them. But actually, it's just common sense, really, if you think about it. And this got me fired from my first job. And I actually was relieved. The guy who fired me, the pharmacist, was like, saying, look, you're mismanaging the pharmacy and, I don't think this career is for you. So I said, well, what should I do then? He said, I think you should go into health coaching because you're too renegade. You're too much of a renegade pharmacist. So then I wrote a CV after that because I got that name rang a bell. I was like, oh,
Renegade Pharmacist. I
the
love
renegade
that brand.
pharmacist. That ended up becoming my website, the renegade pharmacist. So I wrote a CV on monster.com all the reasons why I'll never ever be a pharmacist, why the system's super corrupt, how they make a profit out of people's disease and making people sicker, not better, all the reasons why the system's broken, and what I would do instead. And I never thought I'd ever get hired ever again for a pharmacy job. But then I got headhunted by um, one of the biggest corporations in the UK, which actually has a supermarket and a pharmacy. And they loved my healthy shopping list concept. So they were like, we need renegade pharmacists like you to join our company. I was like, oh, there's that word again, that name. So I ended up getting this job, took it because it was going to give me some good money to pay for what I really wanted to do. And I climbed up the corporate ladder and ended up becoming like part of this project to create a healthy shopping service for this website. It would have impacted millions of lives. Finally, right? The right information would have been going out to the masses through a very big influential platform. And in the end, for some reason, 6 months into it, they shelved the idea. So now I'm facing going back to my original day job as a pharmacist. And boom, right then and there, I get hit with a disease, autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis. And now I'm housebound for almost a year, shitting blood like 40 times a day. So I'm like, what is going on in my life? This is just beyond belief. So what I realized, again, it all comes back down to identity. My truth is definitely not being the face of Walmart, right? Or a big supermarket chain like that. That's not me. That's absolutely not me. When I got into the corporate head office, I was like, wait a minute. How do people live like this? Like, how do they spend 8 hours a day in front of a computer in a cubicle, not talking to anyone, living in fear of their job every day, and the 5 minutes they do have, they go for a coffee break or a cigarette break, and I was like, what is going on? This isn't humane. Like, it's like a factory. It's like a factory farm of depressed people, and so this wasn't my identity, and I was literally going to be part of this system and having people underneath me working for me like chickens in a farm, right? So I was like, this isn't me either. And I had this going on in my mind. And here's the thing: if you go against your truth, the universe will do whatever it can to bring you into alignment with whatever that truth is. And I really believe the universe gives you problems and challenges in order for you to get into that alignment where your mind, body, and spirit is in a full resonance with each other. And then you get into this state I call the divine flow, and then life becomes easy, right? But until then, till you find out what that truth is, and some people find it out when they're like 10 years old, others find it out never in their life. Some people find out when it's like in their retirement age, right? But the universe will do whatever it can to get you into alignment. I think that's the purpose of this university of life, this game of life. It's a simulation, I believe. And we get given, different challenges in order to grow, evolve. And the end game of it is to discover your real truth, who you truly are, your true identity. All right. And then you win the game and you have this amazing life. But you still have challenges all the time. And your identity may shift and change and evolve. And you have to be okay with that. So the universe and the game is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. It's expanding. And it's a never-ending game, actually. Right? If you think about theory of karma, the lives keep going on and on and on. You keep getting different lives, right? So that's the way I've come to peace with reality and existence. And what I've realized, though, there is a hack for that game. And that is what I've put into the system of SomaBreath. And it starts with the breath. The breath is the remote control of the mind, body, and spirit. And with the breath, we have the ability to control the energy within the body. And this is what I discovered through my healing journey. When I was trying to heal myself from ulcerative colitis, I realized first, very quickly, the simple breathing techniques can switch off the stress. And it can actually make you have control over things you thought you didn't have control over, your immune system, your heart rate, your blood pressure, right? pain even, right? So you can turn pain on and off with breathing techniques. You can fix constipation. You can bring harmony within just with breathing techniques. So it really is a pharmacy. So I was like, wow, I found a better pharmacy than one that I spent 6 years studying for a degree just by getting sick and learning pranayama, right? And what I also realized was that a lot of the pranayama that's been taught is not correct. So I had to also really go deep to find out what's the truth. And part of that journey was once I eventually healed myself and I created my first business and was then meeting Wim Hof. Wim Hof definitely inspired me to go even deeper into the breath because of this technique of holding your breath that he has made very popular in the Wim Hof method. I realized there's so much incredible science behind this, and I met this amazing yogi doctor in India in the Himalayas called Prakash Maharsh, who then brought me on as a student. He reads and writes Sanskrit perfectly, and he's also a medical doctor. So he created a medical understanding of the ancient Himalayan yoga, which actually is Wim Hof's lineage. And I used that with Prakash. We came together and created the curriculum of SomaBreath. And that's really my pharmacy, my library of ancient biohacks that combined with the secret sauce that makes the whole thing work like magic, and that's the music. And that's when I realized, something really profound was that music can be used as a healing tool. And back in the day, like when I was running the raves, like it was in a way a ceremonial healing tool. I was creating ceremonies, right? Drum-based ceremonies. And people would take a ritualistic potion called MDMA and have an incredible experience at the end of it. But it was like a ceremony. People went to it like it was church for them, right? And music has been used to create cultures, to bring people together, to celebrate life and do so many magical things. I mean, if you think about how many cultures are created, good and bad, by music, right? You've got the hippie culture in the 60s, you've got gangster rap, right? There's a whole culture being created by music and artists, right? So artists, musicians have the power to create and shape reality as we know it, right? So what I thought was like what I need to do, my real truth is, and I even wrote this down this is the careful thing about manifesting, you have to be careful of. The universe will give you whatever you want. And I remember pre-disease, I wrote down in this Tony Robbins event in my 5-year timeline that in 5 years, I want to have a media company, right, that has turned music into something that has spiritual meaning and purpose behind it, right? Not in a kumbaya way, but in a real cool way that transcends our youth and generation, right? Not like, I mean, it connects with the mainstream audience, not just the Hare Krishnas, right? So that's what I set out to do back then. And if you think that was 2007, exactly 5 years after that is when I got the disease. Because you know what was going to happen? At that 5-year point, I was going to become the face of this huge supermarket chain, and I had forgotten about the music. I'd gone away from the music. So boom, right then, I discover the music is the answer, right? So I started to combine the mute when I got sick, the music with the breathing techniques, and then create my own methodology called Breathing Beats. It's Breathing Beats music technology, which you love, and so you can put any pranayama technique to the music, to rhythmic music and music that has kind of more meditative space to it. And what you can do is you can create sequences of pranayama techniques that then delivers a dose of the most potent medicine in pranayama, in breathwork, which is created by not breathing, but actually not breathing. Not breathing, but by not breathing, by holding your breath. And when you hold your breath for a long enough period, 60 to 90 seconds, you create a positive stress response in the body. And this is like a dopamine hit, but it's actually a cascade of feel good hormones, neurotransmitters that you release that spells DOSC, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And this makes you feel naturally high. You get high from this cocktail that's released, right? And that lifts your mood. And here's the thing, what I've realized, number one problem in the world today is people suffering from low mood. If you go to a doctor and you say you've got low mood for 5 days in a row, they're going to put you on antidepressant because you're going to be diagnosed with depression, right? So, but there's people walking around all day long feeling like shit, hating their lives, negative self talk all day long. And these people are suffering inside. And you know what it is? Because they don't have a ritual, an effective ritual practice that they can use to lift their mood and just to feel naturally high. That also helps, not just, it's holistic, not just the physical, but also mental, emotional, right? That is sustainable. What these people tend to do is they go and find the wrong highs. They go and drink alcohol. They go and take, you know, painkillers, prescription meds, opiates, and cocaine and other substances, chemicals that have a downside to it. Yes, you might get a temporary lift. And a lot of artists, entrepreneurs, and creative people, they love cocaine and stuff like that and cannabis because it gives them that high, and then that makes them think in a more, elevated way, in a higher state of consciousness way, and they can get divine downloads and they can have energy and drive to do things that they wouldn't normally be able to do. But that's not sustainable, and they always crash, and then they keep chasing more and more bigger highs, and then in the end they become drug addicts. Right? This is such a common story amongst um, entrepreneurs, creative people, and artists and celebrities, right? Peak performers. Even athletes are getting addicted to drugs because they're constantly chasing that next edge, right? But the good news is that with breath-based practice and what I've created with SomaBreath, in just a few minutes even, you can get that same high naturally. But what it does is actually makes you feel like you're getting healthier,
Yeah.
not, and you really are scientifically getting healthier, happier, and higher in your mood. And that, in my opinion, is the way we solve this crisis in the world, because I believe that a lot of the world's problems is down to miserable people making more people miserable, right? Because they're just miserable. Whereas if you're high naturally, healthy and happy, those kinds of people tend to want to do nice things and be kind and generous and make the world a better place. Right? Just a change in perception. Because I know me, when I was miserable, I was an arsehole to be around. As soon as I switched and found my truth and my alignment, and I've really worked hard on being naturally high, happy, healthy, everything's shifted in my life, right? And now I attract people to me. I've become a magnet for cool people and epic experiences and events and adventures. Whereas that wasn't my truth before. So with the breath, you can really discover who you truly are. And we've done studies on this. We've shown, Cambridge University, I did the biggest study done so far on breathwork, where
Yeah, I
we
heard
showed
Cambridge did a
microdosing.
study on you.
Yeah.
That's cool. And
With
what did they specifically do or
So
look
what
at?
they did was they took my 21-day awakening journey. And what I love about the 21-day awakening journey, the methodology, and it's probably why you like it as well, is it's easy to follow, right? It's you're more likely to complete it compared to other techniques because it's so effortless to do, and it's a method where everyone's breathing actually at the same time, the same rate, holding their breath at the same time. So it makes it much easier to measure scientifically what's going on where because it's all standardized, right? It's a
Yeah,
prescription.
yeah,
So they chose this because they were like, wow, this is like very compelling. And we have very compelling results anyway. Our testimonials are off the charts. So they were like, let's contact Nero, let's do the study with him. So I actually wanted to, my mum wanted me to go to Cambridge University. I was like, I don't know about that because you have to study really hard. But then in the end, they came to me and
they will study you instead of you
yeah,
studying
which is way
them.
cooler, right?
Way cooler.
So this was really compelling. They've peer-reviewed research now, which shows that this protocol, this method, creates the same changes in the brain and the brainwave states, and also just not just from brain maps, but also people's feedback, participant feedback, it creates the same experiences as psilocybin used to treat severe depression. So they're saying that
Wow.
Soma Breath could be a non-pharmacological alternative to these other treatments they use for psychedelics,
Shit,
for depression.
that's super super cool and super interesting because I never taken any drugs in my whole life, but I've been like really curious about the treatments with psychedelics in order to heal trauma or like get over some hurdles that you maybe not seeing. You're doing like all of these different self-help techniques and reading books and stuff like that, but maybe if you're like still struggling, being still not like seeing breakthroughs and anything, then I thought like, okay, maybe like psychedelics would be something. But I have three small kids and I'm not going to go doing psychedelics anytime soon because of like
Yeah,
the time gap
yeah.
that you need to do it. So so you're saying that, and I loved hearing Dave Asprey saying, if you're thinking about doing psychedelics, don't do it before you do breathwork. And I don't know if he was speaking about holotropic breathwork or soma breathwork. I can't remember what he said in that specific video. It was like a reel on Instagram or something like that. But that made me like take a step back and not pursue like going into psychedelics more, and just like go and look more on breathwork techniques
So he was saying don't do psychedelics before breathwork.
before you try this and this and that. So he had like several different steps that you could try in order to come over some form of trauma that you are carrying. Try that before going into psychedelics. And psychedelics, you shouldn't just like go do it randomly.
100%.
So I've been listening a lot on Tim Ferriss. He have done a bunch of interviews on people studying psychedelics, and he's like go forward with extreme caution.
Well,
And
I've done pretty
yeah,
much every substance known to
please
man.
speak upon breathwork and psychedelics, and can you combine them? What's
Well,
your take
of
on it?
course, of course you can. Like, I mean, that's the original shaman practices. I believe is the combination of the breath, music, trance states, and dance, and tripping out on the good old shrooms, and
Yeah,
all the herbs that you get in these jungles, and cannabis big time in India.
yeah,
So yogis in India have been like, cannabis is also a psychedelic, in it's a mild psychedelic, but it has a
mm,
different type of effect. It's more somatic. Like, cannabis really
yeah.
works with the fear. It's very sensual, sensorial. It heightens all your senses. So it's actually, in my opinion, cannabis is the number one method. Like, if you're going to take something, is the best for breath work. Goes hand in hand with breath. And they even say that the original soma was, maybe it was a choice of, it could be cannabis, it could be Amanita muscarina, it could be some kind of other types of psychedelic shrooms. Cannabis definitely has uh, it, it it basically is quite high up on the list of things I would say of that could be the original soma, and the original soma is the story, the legend of the world's first drug addicts, right?
Mm,
So they were the rishis. So in the Vedic Soma, that legend, thousands of years ago, there was a golden age. And in that golden age, like, the rishis lived for very long periods of time. They would experiment with all of the amazing things they had on the planet. They lived in peace and harmony. And there was this one substance called soma, which they were completely obsessed and addicted to. Right? It gave them everything. It was a panacea. Like, it
mm.
made them immortal. Right? So their life, their longevity depended on the substance. But it
Ah,
also, like, gave them divine bliss states, ecstatic states, connection to God, and all of these things. Then the legend goes that the soma starts to run out. Now, here's the great metaphor, the analogy for our life right now, right? And that is that, you know, we are also all addicted to stuff, the substances, right? And just like the rishis, these world first drug addicts, they were dependent on this substance. Then it runs out. So the god Indra, who's the chief rishi of this time, King Indra, says, we must go inward to create the soma within. And that is the origin of tantric yoga, right? The whole system of tantric yoga is, you could say, originated from the rishis trying to figure out how to create the soma within, right? And hence the name SomaBreath, because the system I've created, which is basically based on tantric yogic philosophies, is my method that's evolved, from all these ancient practices, to give people an antidote to the addiction and dependency to external somas. And the external somas in our day and age right now that people get so dependent on for their happiness, bliss, health, is things like recreational drugs, prescription medications, TV, media, celebrities, distractions, like sexual addiction, so many different forms of addiction, right? That people get into. Even work becomes a form of addiction.
Sure.
And what I've realized is that for most very addictive personalities, the addiction can never go away. It's part of you, who you are. It's part of your core identity, your truth, and it's actually what makes you incredible, right? You can be the world's best drug addict easily, right? Because you're so good at it. You make it into an art form. Like you can roll a joint in a more classy way than anyone else because you've practiced so hard to do it. You can drink more shots of vodka in a row than anyone else around you because you've done it so well, you practice so hard. So one of the best pieces of advice I ever got is from one of my uncles who's an amazing Reiki master in Chicago. And he's actually part of the mentors who helped me, Bharapushan. And he said to me, look, you got an addicted personality, right? Let's be honest with that. Once you accept that, then you can realize that all you need to do is get addicted and obsessed with something that is actually healthy. So you just have to divert your addiction
Wow.
into something else. And I
Okay.
was really into drinking a lot. I'm in the UK. Big healthy drinking culture. That was part of my way of forgetting my misery of pharmacy. So I'd get smashed on the weekends, take loads of drugs, cocaine, do all that, girls, women, obsession. And so he said, look, how is this working out for you? I was like, really bad. So he said, just get obsessed with something else. And that was one of the things that turned me into when I went to Tony Robbins and I found that method, prevention, healthy shoppiness. It drove me into that. So my identity from being a drug addict and a boozer and a raver shifted into something better. But I was obsessed, like crazy. My parents used to be like, why are you studying so hard? And I'm like, Mum, but you always told me to study hard, right? And now you got a problem with me studying. Now I was like studying like crazy to be the best with this concept and to get it out there and get it into the big corporation. And then that didn't work out. So then when I got the disease, I diverted my obsession, my obsessive, addictive personality into healing myself. And I became amazing. Now, people who don't have that level of obsession addiction, right? They tend to, if you look at them, they tend to be the people who are okay with mediocrity,
Yeah.
right? So they're okay with that just state of mediocre, and that's okay. We need people like that. That's what keeps the world going around. But the crazies like myself, who make the game-changing ideas and shift reality and all this stuff, and make innovations, and like Elon Musk, great example. He's
Yeah.
super addicted personality, right? He's obsessed with what he does. If he wasn't like doing that, right, he would have been a drug addict, heroin addict. He would have been down that rabbit hole, as so many unfortunate people end up.
Yeah,
But there's
for
so
sure.
many people who end up in that world who come out of it eventually because they get a piece of advice that my uncle gave me, and they go on to do great things. So many people. So part of what I want to do is help people who are in that state like me, right? Because that the reason why a lot of people have got diseases at a young age is because they have an addictive personality. They overeat, they burn themselves out working too hard. They even, some people exercise too hard and then get sick as a disease as a result. So any kind of level of obsession needs to have a balance to it, and that's what we help with SomaBreath. But also, you need to divert that addiction, that energy, that drive to succeed and be the best, whatever it is, into something positive that's going to make the world a better place. That then you discover what your truth is. All right. For most people, that is truth for them. Right. They discover it the hard way. But there are the odd people on the planet as well where their truth is to be utter assholes and evil. I've seen it. Like, there's a lot of this hippie talk of there's no such thing as evil, but I don't
Yeah,
know. I
so
question
you
that.
say some people's identity and mission in life is to be evil and contribute to
100%.
the dark side. 100%.
Yeah, but then
That
and then
that's super interesting.
but then also, what is right and wrong is also a matter of perception, whatever
Of
side you're
course,
on, right? So that's actually
100%.
the ultimate enlightenment. So, you need both. You need the light and dark. The dance between light and darkness, when you see that, and you can step away from it and you can wake up out of that illusion that you have to be one or the other,
Mm.
and that you have to be caught up in that drama. When you wake up to that, that's enlightenment. That's the truth. And then you can stop getting so caught up in the drama of the darkness. And, like you see now on the internet, a lot, and I used to be this guy, a lot of people campaigning and calling out all the evils in the world and judging this person and that person. Trump, the amount, level of judgment he gets. Elon Musk now, right? And there's people who get their whole life obsessed with hatred towards one or two people on the planet, and they blame that person for all their problems. Right now, like, when you transcend out of that and you start to see that the world is imperfectly perfect and that everyone is part of making this world go around, and that light and darkness have to coexist. You can't have one or the other, right? Then it's so much peace comes to mind, and then you can
Mm.
stop like looking at the past with regret and hatred for yourself and guilt, shame, and all these emotions that actually make people paralyzed and stuck and stop taking action. When you transcend out of this and you realize that there's just always a dark between dark and light, and however dark the pendulum shifts to one side, right, it will inevitably go to the other side, as long as you are patient and do the work, and are able to not get caught up in that drama. Because what a lot of people do is they go into the dark, right? They may lose their job, their wife might cheat on them, and they get, heartbroken, and or they get some kind of unfortunate thing like a disease, and they get into that darkness, right? That dark side, pain, misery, suffering, heavy problems, and then they don't see the light because it's so far away, and then that they get caught up in that, and then they shrivel up, and then they never get to see the light. But if you can turn that dark into something like powerful and give that meaning, give a meaning to that, when you're in that really dark place, if you can see that point with a new perception. Like for me, when I had the disease, there was an element of 6 months of just absolute blame, self-loathing, like lack of like faith in God where it exists, becoming an atheist, no belief in the spiritual world or anything beyond this. I just thought we're all just unlucky robots on this planet, and I was really caught up in the drama of the dark. But then I got woken up, and I realized that I can turn this into a gift to really transform and make this world a better place. And the Swami told me that one line. She said, "Look, you have a gift here. If you can turn this around, you can be an amazing role model to other people. You can inspire so many people, with your story and your tenacity to want to help people." And she said, actually, you getting a disease now is a gift, because now you can really step inside the shoes of a patient and really understand what makes somebody healthy, right? And what it really means to be healthy. And boom, and that's what happened, right? It was an amazing self-fulfilling prophecy she gave me. All right. So we now have so many students in SomaBreath who have replicated my results. You know, we have this 21 day awakening journey. If you go to the webpage for that, you'll see a video, and there's like stories like Letitia, who had like severe, uh, similar ulcerative colitis as I had. She was going to die. She was in hospital. Parents were going to have a word with her to say, look, you know, I think we're going to have to make peace with the actual outcome that you might die. They were about to get ready to have the talk with her. And the
Mm.
21 days fell into her lap. She did that course, turned the whole thing around, saw her disease as a gift, and now she's been an amazing health coach. Right? We have
Wow.
Ben Greenfield is a great example.
Ben
He
Greenfield,
one of
yeah.
the top
I saw
guys
his
in
testimonial as
yeah
well. Yeah.
yeah
He's
yeah.
really,
He was
really
starting to
amazing human
lose
being.
yeah he was starting to lose his love for biohacking because he was like, what is this for? He lost his meaning,
Mm.
and he did. If you listen to his story, after doing the 21 day awakening journey, he discovered meaning again. He realized it's
Wow.
all about community, and
Yeah.
he went back into religion, his spiritual practice, and he's devoted his life to the community aspects of health and fitness and
Yeah.
what it does for your spirit.
Because I
Yeah,
remember Ben Greenfield. This was a way back, a long time way back, when he said like that community and being around other people was one of his weakest areas when doing the
yeah,
life book, where you like set goals and intentions and strategies within 10 different life areas.
yeah.
So that's like super interesting that he found your work, doing it, and like getting in contact with that is like the true meaning of what his life is
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
community is the cure.
Community is the cure. I love that.
There it
So
is.
I want to circle back to a question I had here. Like, you've covered like so many things, and my mind is just exploding with questions and nuances here. But talking about being addicted, so you are getting like these natural highs. Are you not like experiencing also like the crashes? So I was looking at a recent podcast on Diaries of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, just around dopamine. I think she wrote a famous book. I can't recall the name of it right now, but that is like the issue with addiction, and anybody can get addicted. But of course, some people have a higher tendency of getting addicted. But it's just like when you're getting like through the highs, you're also like getting the lows. Are you not getting the same low when you're doing like breathing exercises or psychedelics?
So it depends on the type of breathwork exercise and the dose, right?
Yeah.
So the net result of what we do in Sonar Breath is a practice. It's not just one technique. It's like
Mm.
there's much more to it. We teach a whole breath-based lifestyle. If you do that, what happens is you increase naturally in your system that, well, you normalize that. The correct thing to say is you normalize your CO2 levels in your body, and the CO2 levels makes you feel naturally blissed. Or you get
Mm.
this feeling of just a natural high. It's not like a drug high. It's more like a when you're healthy high. It's a when you exercise and you get fit, you get this kind of a vibration that's slightly higher than before, right? It's not like it's a cocaine hit where
Yeah.
you're like peeing on drugs. Although there are breathing techniques that can make you feel that for a short period, but the thing with the breath is that your body recalibrates quite quickly because it's natural.
Mm.
But when you take a drug, it's is no longer under your control. The drug is the thing controlling you now. So that's going to give you a very exaggerated high state. Psychedelics is again going to really change your conscious state in a dramatic way. So, like a breathwork experience that mimics psychedelics, imagine breathwork can effectively mimic the effects of quite a lot of things like substances. Okay, so there's breathwork techniques that mimic psychedelics. Now, that kind of high from psychedelics is a altered state of consciousness where you can hallucinate, you can have a heightened experience of music, sound, and also you can see the perception of the past and even the future with new lens, new way to see, new eyes. So those breathwork techniques should also be treated like psychedelics. You don't do it all the time every day because then it has a negative consequence, right? So we have sessions that are really like that, like the DMT sessions. But the daily doses are like doing a workout exercise. So, you know, you you're not going to create a high from doing 20-30 minutes of physical exercise. Just 20-30 minutes of dancing a day, right? You're gonna feel high off it. But it's gonna be a lasting high that feels good. And it's not gonna have the crash like you've done drugs. So that's what we're talking about with the breath. That's the kind of high. It's a natural high. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 totally. So, uh, by the way, like with the music part, I listened to your tracks on Spotify yesterday, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like my kids and my wife, we love to dance around, and I love like ecstatic dance. That is also another thing what I got stoked about this interview, because I love ecstatic dance. I really love it because I feel like completely free, and I love doing like breath work, but I don't think I've been doing like breath work like even close to what you are what you are doing. So let me go through like a couple of breath works that I've been doing, and I want you to comment on it. So the first one that I went to, it was like in Stockholm, in a like regular room. We were a bunch of people lying on mattresses, and we were just like breathing in fully and letting it out. And we were just doing that on and on and on and on, and until people started screaming, people started laughing, people started crying. Things just happened. What I felt was that like an extreme sense of darkness and sadness, and I didn't know where it came from, what it was about. I had no like visual images that I could connect to, like this is the reason why I'm feeling this way. I just like felt so low that I even couldn't speak. And then the session was over. We sat in a circle. People were sharing whatever they were sharing, just, a regular sharing circle. I didn't share anything because I was just like past. I was like so down during that time. I've had different experience where I don't feel down, where I didn't feel like so down. So l- let me hear your comment about like this type, because this is like super common here in Sweden.
Yeah.
Now I'm in Spain, but like where I used to live in Sweden, so that is like super common. You just go and
Yeah.
breathe, 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 and you just let everybody be, and you have like
Yeah.
this sharing circle. I've seen
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
the time,
So,
and I'm not.
yeah.
I think there's like a higher level than this. Can you comment on this?
Was it with music or without?
It was with music, but the music oftentimes I must say is totally crap, because if you are speaking about Tony Robbins and NLP and like helping your state to go in a certain direction, I feel that many people, they are not DJs. They are like getting in
Mm,
another track with another beat and another tempo,
mm,
and they are disturbing your pattern. It's more like a pattern interrupt than it's
mm.
helping your pattern. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's not many, like okay, I can say none have had the music dialed in.
Yeah. Well, there's bad sex and good sex, and
Of
there's
course.
bad breath work and good breath work, right? It's down to the practitioner and the facilitator.
Love it.
So, so what you're doing is like what you just did was conscious connected breathwork. It's probably like holotropic or rebirthing. A lot of people are doing this because what it does is it gives people a altered state of consciousness where the process of this hyperventilation basically it invokes stress on the body, and if it's guided well, it invokes a positive stress that can actually then lead to a lot of emotions being released from the body, right? And what you're doing actually is you're effectively invoking a near-death experience. Just you're taking away the CO2. That's what you're doing. CO2 is what gets oxygen into your brain, into your all the body tissue cells, And so intense hyperventilation, prolonged, will suppress oxygenation to parts of the brain, right? That will then, it basically mimics how psilocybin and DMT works. Is like it shuts off certain pathways in the brain that deal with consciousness. And what this can do is it alters your, say, consciousness, because your rational conscious mind turns off for a moment, right? And what that can do in some people, depending on who they are, I think you're like a pitta vata, you're like vata pitta like me, the dosha
Yeah,
type energy type.
yeah.
So
Pitta Vata.
yeah, that's what I thought. So your pitta can get, both can get triggered, and pitta is fire. So if there's like anger from the past, sadness, sorrow that you haven't dealt with, it can come to the surface and you may clear it. And so if it's done well and guided well, it can be very healing, these experiences, okay? If it's not guided well and there's no integration, what can happen is you can end up getting re-traumatized, re-triggered, and it can reinforce that program, right? And that means it's a bad trip. So there's good trips and bad trips, just with psychedelics, right? With breathwork, good trips, bad trips. So like it's really down to the space holder. Now in SomaBreath, the way we do it, we have sessions like that, and we use the tantric like method of doing it, which is really more using the whole yogic practice of rhythmic breathing, breathing in a perfect rhythm, right? Keeping that rhythm. Rhythm creates coherence, and it creates a like harmonization effect in the physiology, and your HRV becomes this like beautiful sine wave, right? And this feels more blissful than painful catharsis if done correctly. So this slow rhythmic breathing that we do, it still will release CO2. You'll still get into altered states of consciousness, but you will get a more blissful release if of emotions rather than a painful. And that's the more tantric way of doing it. And remember, tantra is a lot about senses and activating bliss and full body orgasmic bliss. So our aim is with Soma Breath is to get people into that orgasmic bliss state, because that's sexual liberation, that orgasmic feeling that you can get from a full body like activation is very healing as well and therapeutic. You don't need my line is always healing trauma doesn't have to be traumatic, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that trauma can be healed through bliss and pleasure and feeling good. So I also learned from the hard way of living in Tantra Town in Koh Phangan, where there's a lot of these like conscious connected breathwork practices, where I realized that not everyone likes it, and it's not a good thing to push onto people if they're not aware of what's going to happen. And I've realized there's a lot of space holders not doing it correctly. So that's the most advanced Soma breath techniques are like what you just did, but more to a beat where you're breathing in perfect rhythm. But then we have a stage before that, which is the same, but slower rhythmic breathing followed by breath retentions, where you create this positive stress, and then it gradually builds up tempo. So you start with slow rhythmic breathing, then faster, and then at the end you have a peak moment of faster rhythmic breathing. And what happens is each moment you'll hold your breath for longer periods of time. And right at the end, you'll get to a point where you get into a breathless state where you no longer need to breathe in or out. And when you get to a 90-second breath hold time, after right at the end of the session, after the period of this fast breathing, right, where you're also using the sexual locks, the energy locks, it's called Ashwini Mudra, where you contract the sphincter muscles and let go. And you make that sound on the exhale. It's basically simulating sex in a way, right? And then there'll be a point where you breathe in, breathe out, and your breath comes naturally to its own stop, pause by itself. You don't need to breathe in or out. You go into this other than conscious state. It's just this ethereal state, samadhi, you can call it, samadhi. And there you get the most powerful downloads and healing of trauma, resolution that happens without having to go into that painful catharsis. And actually, this entire sequence that we've developed is the tantric rituals for Kundalini activation, right? The real third eye activation, where you activate this inner intuition, this inner guidance, which stays with you then.
And I hear this notion. It's so funny you're mentioning Kundalini activation. So now I'm hearing like from a couple of, I never met them before, but they've been DMing me and telling and asking me if I want to join some Kundalini activation, and that is done through a certain person that is now enlightened or is touched by some guru, and it's only that person that can do the Kundalini activation. And now in Sweden there was just released a documentary called Holy Fuck with Alex Wartman.
Oh,
So
I
that
know
was
that
a
story.
really juicy documentary, but it's
Yeah, some of
also
the
like
people,
portraying
some of
how
that,
wrong
yeah,
it can go when you
yeah,
are like putting somebody on that guru pedestal. And
yeah,
also how he, because I had in mind like how addiction works, and I could just like see he wanted to make it like crazier and crazier, and it was like just feeding that addiction that was growing and the ego that was growing with it, like from being like quite centered in the beginning, what it seemed like. I don't know him personally at all, but it was like super interesting to watch that from that perspective. But you are saying now that Kundalini, you can awaken it by yourself, you don't get
yes,
touched by somebody. Because I got a strong like bullshit radar when somebody's saying that I am the light, I am the only one that can heal you or give you the Kundalini awakening or whatever it is. I'm like super like when
yeah,
I hear that type of talk.
yeah, yeah. Diksha, they call it. So
Diksha.
that's actually, yeah, like one of the problems in this whole new age world is people using these tantric practices from India and kind of corrupting it in a way and using it to make power and monetary gain. Alex Vartman's a very interesting story because I heard about him when I moved to Copenhagen years ago. And so some of the guys in that documentary, friends of mine from Thailand, who I met them just as they left that new tantra. And they told me
Yeah,
all the gory details of what happened and
yeah,
how he created all these different levels. And right at the end, level 9,
yeah,
you reach that when you actually basically do him up the ass, basically,
yeah,
or
yeah,
he does you up the ass. So
yeah,
it was like a weird,
yeah.
weird, weird cult that he created with a lot of traumatized people, and but a lot of them loved SomaBreath. They were like, "We really like what you're doing with SomaBreath. It's much more pure and it's like white tantra."
Yeah,
There's a lot of dark black tantra that really shouldn't be mainstream. That's become mainstream in a way.
yeah.
As I said, light and dark coexist. So I'm not judging.
They coexist. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so cool. So so you spoke about like that breathwork session. So how do you do the integration? Because what I've been feeling on many different sessions is that you're just like left to your own emotions, or you're just like left as you is,
yeah,
which might be fine. I have no idea. But you mentioned integration, so I want to know what is that and how do you look upon that?
yeah. So, firstly, we would never do like super intense breathwork sessions to large groups of people without proper integration. So, um, I really train our coaches to be coaches, to have a process. So, part of the integration is in the set sharing circle where people voice what happened, their experience, and so a lot of healing can happen just from that, giving opportunity for people to share their experience, right?
Hmm.
But then there's homework. So um, you really need to journal and write down any insights you got and split it into two categories. Because a lot of things you learn a lot about yourself in these practices if it's held and guided properly. What are your thought viruses that have come up? Thought viruses are negative self-talk, bad habits, practices, thoughts, habitual thoughts, and patterns of behavior that are corrupting you, taking you off your truth. And then what are the positive programs that you already feel you have, but have maybe installed and downloaded as a result of the session? So you write all that down, and you can also draw pictures and even write music and poetry and stuff to describe your experience. And
Mm.
just by doing this, you start to integrate it into your life. And then we have a course, the 21-day awakening journey, that really helps you integrate everything you learn into a practical system for manifesting what you really want. And then we have this even deeper course that our transformational coaches use, called the Universal Journey, which is based on the eighth limb of yoga, or eight limbs of yoga. It takes you step by step through all the different levels of consciousness. So Timothy Leary, who was one of the top first psychotherapists to use LSD in therapy, he got chased down by the US government and was like outlawed for a while. But he made a map of human consciousness. He called it the Eighth Circuit Model of Consciousness. And then somebody called Robert Anton Wilson did an upgraded version of this and mapped it to the eight limbs of yoga and also the eight chakras in yoga. So there's eight core chakras in yoga, all right? There's many different chakras, but they're the eight core that point to the endocrine system of the body, the hormonal system. And he shows Timothy Leary how the brain evolves, different levels of evolution, different states of consciousness are programmed into us, just like a computer installing apps. So we have an app for each one of the eight circuits of consciousness. And
Mm.
so what we help people do with the breath work is to awaken their awareness of whatever apps they've been installed at various stages of human development, and then reprogram that, and to go in and install whatever new programs they want, and to release thought viruses, to really see themselves as a robot that can be programmed, that you're a human with a robot side to you. And if you can program your AI, which is your automatic intelligence, to be amazing and brilliant and the best it can be, then everything you do instinctively on autopilot will be in line with your truth. And you'll stop doing things that take you off your truth, because it becomes a default part of who you are, your default state. So the purpose of any spiritual practice is to improve your default state, the time when you're not
Mm.
doing any practice. And so
Yeah.
SomaBreath gives you the tools to improve your default state, who you are when you're not doing anything. You're just being. And that's the whole point, to take you automatically towards success rather than with loads of struggle and effort.
That brings me to a question I had about when you have a specific trauma in yourself you know you want to deal with. For example, if you know you're a people pleaser and you know the trauma that had led to you becoming a people pleaser from your childhood, how do I approach breathwork with like knowing exactly, like more specific what I want to work with? Because I'm more trained and been doing like more self-help with like Tony Robbins techniques, but was at UPW 2006, but also like trained myself in NLP than EFT. So it was easier if you were like more specific, especially with EFT, that I love the the tapping technique, which also is a mind valley quest, I think. So you could like mention and you speak out what your trauma is and you deal with that like really specifically. It's like more surgically. Can you do that with soma breath as well?
Yeah, exactly. So the process I've developed is called neurosomatic programming. So it's
Mm,
NLP with the body involved, right?
mm,
Neurosomatic programming, and the breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. Okay, the psyche and the soma. So soma is body in Greek. So um, think of yourself as a computer being like programmed from all your different stages of development. The first stage of development is in the womb, and then when you're born, and you is your reptilian brain that's formed first, and this is your survival app, and it determines how you see the world, whether it's safe or unsafe, right? So just think how differently your life would be if there was a trauma in your birth, or as a very young child, maybe you didn't get breastfed, or you were taken away from your mother. This changes how you perceive the world, safe or unsafe, right? And you'll see this like psychologically if you study people, like people with serious intense phobias and fears. There's quite often a problem with the survival app,
Mm.
right? Then the second is the limbic system, when the limbic system is formed, right? And the limbic system is your emotional world, right? So this is when you start to crawl around. You've got a 2-year old. She's going through this phase right now, or he, I'm not sure if it's a she or he, the
Yeah,
emotional territorial phase, right?
yeah.
And this is when you learn what's
Emotional
mine and what's yours.
terror phase.
Emotional terror, yeah,
Yeah,
so true. So I have the same problem right now. It's a
yeah,
good problem to have, but
it's a good
it's
problem.
challenging. So it's the what's mine, what's yours phase, and here you determine your territory, but also your emotional state of an awareness of emotions and feelings. And so here, kids start to square themselves up against each other, and they put themselves into status and hierarchy: top dog, bottom dog, alpha, beta, and also bullying and name calling and you know domineering father imprints can have an influence here in this when the limbic's being formed. Okay, and a lot of addictive personalities, obsessive personalities, also this people pleasing personality can be formed in this stage of development. People pleasing is an archetype which is known as friendly weakness. Okay, is where um, basically it's uh, you know you seek leaders to guide you. So you're always trying to please other people to feel like you belong, to fit in. And the emotional um, disturbances that happen in early childhood in this second imprint have a big part to play in shaping your identity here, right? So the first two levels of programming basically determine your core identity, right? Your belief systems. And these are usually hardwired and stay with you for your whole life unless you learn how to change it. And this is why people become very predictable, and they can have the same habits, same patterns, and they can follow in the same footsteps of their parents and just pass down, you know, from generations the same habits, rituals, patterns, and never change, right? And you'll see, certain cultures in the world where people don't even leave the town, the street they're on, because they fear the unknown too much. Because the next imprint is fear of unknown, right? It's and what's smart and dumb. And here, your reality can shift as a child depending on what school you go to. So a lot of kids get a head start in life purely because they went to the right school and they learned the right information and they had the right teacher at that time. So this is your logical reasoning app. And this determines what's smart and what's dumb and your level of awareness, right? And this can be programmed again. So you'll see kids who go from like very impoverished backgrounds, like they may be in foster homes, they may be subjected to drugs at school, they go to a shitty school, and then they suddenly find some light, some guardian takes care of them, and they get put into a right path. Or they go to prison, and prison puts them onto the right path, right? And then you'll see they get a new education, and then they excel in life, right? Because they get this new app installed of education, new form of education. We can always learn new things, new strategies, new habits, new patterns of behavior, from learning from other people, reading books, practicing religious practices and rituals and so on and so forth. But unless your core identity is shaped, it's hard for this to really take you to the next level. So you have to really work on this core identity, the first two, right? Now the fourth one is when you go to puberty. You have released a lot of different sex hormones. And this orgasmic state shifts your brain chemistry. And orgasm, oxytocin, and love and bonding, social connection, when you start to find friends and peer groups and lovers, right? When you go through that phase, uh, creates another imprint in us that basically makes us, have a certain sexual preference. If you think about, go back in that time, how much of your thought process was just focus on sex, right? For me, it was
100%.
every other every other thought was sexual, right?
Yeah, yeah, everything.
So this creates a sense of identity too, all right? And we do certain things in our life. We choose certain careers. We know we go after certain goals and ambitions and drives purely on a core drive to find a partner who you want. But in order to find that partner, you have to have a certain identity, right? You have to be a certain person, have a certain bank account, and certain safety and security. You need to match their identity of what they want, right? So their values. So these four imprints create your ego, your self, your identity, who you truly are, your sense of self. The first two are your core identity, and then you have this. The four together is your kind of your identity that can shift and evolve, right? And most people stay the same throughout their life. They hardly change, right? So Soma Breath is all about waking up these imprints. And the way you do that is the higher states of consciousness, the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. The fifth is now your full body bliss activation that comes from basically a harmony between all of the um, elements in your body, right? All of the nervous system processes. And that can be created by just rhythmic breathing. Rhythmic breathing for a few minutes, even, can bring a full body bliss feeling at the end of it. Or our breathwork technique that releases the soma. The soma can get you into it. Deeper, more advanced breathwork practices, tantric practices, and even like certain like shaking rituals and movement practices. And these like hardcore sexual tantric practices as well can wake up the more psychedelic states, the higher states, the non-local states, and then the most advanced breath practices of all that get you into that deep samadhi state, right, where you completely go into the void, take you into the eighth circuit, which is the non-local state, the quantum state. And here you have the ability, even before that, the third eye activation practices, they're all designed to get you into these higher sense conscious where you can rewrite the first four programs. And Tantra is all about cultivating a sense of free will, right? In Tantra, the idea is that we are sleeping robots most of our lives, and we're constantly repeating the same habits, patterns, and programs because we don't know who we truly are. And once we wake up out of that trance, we become the software programmers of our own computers, right? Our own inner robot. And we now become in control of reality. And that's tantric magic, is where you can start to bend reality, right? According to your will, once you know how to reprogram yourself. So Tantra really is a whole system of reprogramming yourself. It's just got over years, got shrouded in a bit of mystery, fantasy, and then the neo Tantra just put all the emphasis on sex, and it kind of lost the real reason, purpose behind Tantra. There's a lot of good Tantra teachers out there who do speak about what Tantra really is. It's a way of cultivating a way of life according to your truth. But in order to get to that point, you have to understand who you truly are, right? And that requires some techniques to peel away the layers of the onion, right, to discover who you truly are within. So that's what Soul and Breath really is. It's a system of transformation that borrows a lot from tantric yoga, and also these like psychonauts from the 60s, 70s, these amazing psychotherapists who are experimenting with psychedelics for transformation as a way for people to improve their lives. And we really work on both the physical body and the emotional, spiritual. So the hardware is your physical body, the software is the mind, and we bring an alignment to both. So you literally go from a PC to a Mac,
Mm.
right? Because PCs get viruses, they get clogged up, they slow
Yeah.
down, they break. I hate them.
I hate
Macs
them as well.
are
Can't
amazing.
stand them.
They
Yeah.
run so effortlessly, right? So Macs are what we're trying to create. We're trying to turn PCs into Macs.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
love
mission.
that metaphor because I'm like such a die-hard MacBook fan. I love it. So it's funny what you
Yeah,
said because like if you go just a couple of years back, we had like one tantra festival in Sweden. I think that was in Ängsbacka only, and today there's like 10 or 20 each year.
yeah.
So everyone is just like going, but it's I see it is selling. People are also like longing for connection, especially in Sweden. I think like in the Western world, but especially
Mm.
Sweden, the longing for connection and touch, because it's a culture where we are not touching each other. We're also putting the baby in its own room as quick as possible, so we are not like co-sleeping and having like that physical connection with each other.
Mm.
And I'm half Swedish and I'm half Egyptian. So every summer when
Oh,
we went down to Egypt, even if my cousins' houses were big and you could like live in different bedrooms, we were all sleeping in the same bed.
oh, nice.
I don't know why, but the culture was like that, and we were just
Yeah.
like sleeping like smoothly throughout the night.
Well,
And
yeah.
as a result, I can see that me and my brothers, we are super comfortable with touching another man, touching a woman, like playing with children, just grabbing. We're also like really good in martial arts and different like physical activities,
Mm.
and I'm also like installing that in my kids, so I can see the difference
Nice.
between my kids and other kids that are not co-sleeping, or not like they are like super intelligent when it comes to like their physical abilities, like a physical
Amazing.
intelligence is like
Beautiful.
super developed there.
That's great.
So like you've been sharing like so much knowledge here, like it's totally mind-blowing. And I would love if you could like share, like this is like the last questions, and then we'll ask you like where people can find you and stuff like that. But just so it's super clear, what issues have people come with you before that has gotten like cured, released, or freed with Soma breath?
Well, it's a great question. And, we can't make any big guarantees or medical claims. We get in trouble for that. But what I will say is that we have a lot of anecdotal evidence of people recovering from autoimmune diseases like I have, which are really diseases of a spiritual disturbance. We have people who have lost their way in life, become depressed, who've reversed that. We have amazing studies and testimonials on our website that you can check out. We have athletes, who have improved their performance, their fitness, their stamina, and gone on to win competitions. We have like professional athletes. We have, professional baseball players. We have who's actually building a whole Soma wellness center in
Mm.
California right now, because he was a famous Mike Morin, and he's a
Ah, cool.
famous U.S. Baseball player. He's been super inspired. He's doing that. Then we have a rugby coach in the UK, who's training kids and using Sound Breath, and he's improved his game as a result. I've helped. We even have like royal families, like members of royal families,
Mm.
who are doing this stuff, like all walks of life, of different situations, different conditions, because it's a pharmacy. It's a pharmacy of techniques. So, we have people with blood pressure issues. We've got people with eyesight improving as a result of doing this, because intermittent hypoxia is the mechanism, and
Mm.
intermittent hypoxia has been shown in various studies to have a whole host of different beneficial effects on physiology, from activating stem cells to improving blood flow, oxygenation, to accelerating healing, and even reversing and preventing cancer. So you look up intermittent hypoxia, look at IHT clinics, you'll see so much evidence and studies behind that. We're just mimicking what they do with expensive machines. What costs $60,000 to do in a clinic, we're doing for free of charge. We're showing you how to do it with the breath. And it's just delivering this dose of intermittent hypoxia every day for a few times a day.
So beautiful, so beautiful. So thank you for that. And where could people find you if they want to get involved or get in contact? Where should people
Yeah,
start
so
also if they want to
the
like start with Soma breathwork?
well, I want to just also give. I know you work with Ansbacher. I want to like give some props to Ansbacher for creating the very best workshop space in the world. Um,
Wow,
like literally, the best
thanks.
breathwork session I've ever done was in that top upper barn.
Yeah, upper
The
barn.
small barn, what it was called? Maybe the small
We
barn.
call
I
it
can't
big
remember.
barn, upper barn. We got
Yeah, the
a
one
couple
with
of
the
barns.
incredible sound system, like
Yeah, yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So many speakers
That's the
everywhere,
big
like
barn.
that. And the people who came to the Ecstatica festival we did, super high vibe. It was one of the best experiences of being a facilitator. So definitely want to give props to Ansbacher. You'll see me there
Beautiful.
again. But go and check out our app. So you can download the SomaBreath app at the App Store, right? Android and iOS. Also follow me on Instagram, so Niraj Naik official. You can follow me on Instagram, and we also have our website, somabreath.com. And on somabreath.com, you can find out about becoming an instructor. You can pass this on. Actually, a lot of people become instructors because just the value of just going through it and all the courses that we give you, included, the transformation you receive itself is worth way more than the price of the training, right? And then we also have courses like the 21-day awakening journey, amazing course to deep dive in, have you guided by an instructor to transform. And also on our website, you can find instructors near you. So in Sweden, we
Ah,
actually
cool.
have quite a few Soma Breath instructors.
Yeah, I think one of my friend is a Soma breath instructor.
There you go.
Yeah, so
You know
super.
Philip Flo?
No, not Philip Flow. I think,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. It's Sami Hakala.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
So
few there.
there's a few there, and super grateful for your time. Your mission is so inspiring, and like I got so many nuggets of wisdom today, and I hope to talk to you again, and I hope to see you at Ängsbacka this summer.
Yeah, I
I'll
can't
make
wait,
sure to
man.
come to the festival.
Yeah. And thanks for asking very good questions.
Thank you, brother. Talk soon.
Nice. All right, cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Peace.